Hello everybody, Mark, aka The Nerdy Punk, back again today for a new video. Happy Saturday everybody, hope you all having a great weekend. We are well over a week into July of 2023, and so it's finally time to do the Letterboxd recap for June of 2023. A little bit late this time, I apologize, but nonetheless, excited to get this video out. It's not the latest I've ever been either. So I watched 15 movies in total in the month of June, and I watched one movie on May 31st, which I filmed the most recent recap, the May recap. I filmed that on May 31st, so I didn't get a chance to talk about this movie, so I'll go ahead and talk about the first one really quickly, and that is This Is the End. I watched this on Netflix. This is a comedy starring Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel, James Franco, all kinds of other really famous comedians from like the 2010s, 2000s era, which is the era that I grew up with. So I grew up with this movie, although not as much as other movies of the era like Superbad or Knocked Up or, you know, any Seth Rogen movie from the late 2000s. I watched those many more times than this movie, but I really like this movie. It's a bit of a different comedy. It's like an apocalypse scenario comedy, and it's very funny. It's very good, very well done. I forget exactly what I gave it on Letterboxd, maybe 3.5 out of 5. We'll say that. All right, next up here, I dove into my physical media collection a lot this month. So most of the movies that I watched were movies that I owned on physical media in some shape or form. First up here is Animal House. I bought this when it came out on 4K, and I still hadn't watched it, and I finally did. This is the first time watch for me, and I gotta say, I didn't love this as much as I wanted to. This is a classic comedy, and I'm sure those who really grew up with this movie, I'm sure love it. And there's that nostalgia that's attached to it, kind of like me with American Pie. They're very similar movies. I like American Pie so much more because I grew up with it, you know? But it's a very similar vibe to that, a little bit less raunchy and out there than American Pie, but then again, this was made in the late 70s, so there was a lot more kind of hang-ups that they had to deal with back then. So I'm sure this was a very shocking film back then. Like I said, I didn't love this as much as I wanted to. I found the characters very uninteresting and unlikable. There's a lot of jokes in this that would not fly today. I mean, that's the same thing with American Pie, but some of the jokes in this I just found very off-putting. Like, I think there's a joke involving a girl who's quite a bit underage in the movie, and I found that to be kind of icky and disgusting. I'm not a person that would get offended at movies. Like, I'm not gonna go write a Facebook post about how this joke shouldn't have been made. I'm not one of those people. But, you know, I just didn't like it myself. And so I gave this movie a 3 out of 5. I mean, it's funny in parts, it's entertaining in parts, but there's a lot that I really didn't care for. I apologize to those who loved this movie, but it just wasn't for me, you know. Next one here, I dove into the Criterion Collection a little bit this past month and watched Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is spine number 175 for those Criterion collectors from 1998. It is directed by Terry Gilliam, or Gilliam, however you want to say it. This is my second movie of his that I've seen, and I really liked this. It's very trippy. It's based on a book by Hunter S. Thompson with the same title there. I've read roughly half of the book, and I'm not a huge reader, so it's hard for me to read a bunch of books, but I really did like the book when I read it. I have to get back to it and finish it. But yeah, I really like this. Great performances from Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. Next title, I gave Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas 3.5 out of 5. My bad. Next title, another Criterion. This is spine 501 from 1984, and that is Paris, Texas. I watched this and I really liked it, and the longer that it sat with me, the more I look back on this movie and I love it. It's gotten so much better since the time that I initially watched it. I loved this movie. It's directed by Wim Wenders. It stars Harry Dean Stanton, one of my favorite actors, and it's probably his best performance, at least from what I've seen so far. I love this movie. Such a great story, and the way that it's told, it has a lot to say about love, about the United States, and especially the American South and Southwest. And it's directed by a German. Who would have thought? But it's so good, and it gets better, like I said, the longer I sit with it. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 initially. I'm interested to see what I decide when I rewatch this. Whether this is going to get bumped up all the way to a perfect 5 out of 5, or 4.5, or if I feel like 4 is kind of the appropriate grade. I'm not sure yet, but I really like this so much. Definitely a recommendation for the sale if you don't have it yet. Next movie, this was a rewatch, the first rewatch of the month, and this is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is the special 4K limited edition release. I don't think this is available anymore, but it comes with like a Mad magazine. It comes with a record, actually, which is over here, and then your 4K discs. I noticed a couple issues with the 4K disc, and I'm not sure if there were just like some scuffs on the disc or if there was some actual scratching going on, but I'm not sure if that was, a result of packaging or if it's something that I caused. Either way, I was able to get through the movie, and it looks great on 4K, and this is one of my favorite Tarantino movies, and ever since it came out in 2019, I think this was like the 5th time I've watched it, and it just gets better every single time. I love the performances, I love the script. It's such an immersive movie. Set design, one of the best soundtracks in all of movie history, in my opinion. Love this soundtrack. Seriously, if you've never seen the movie, you've never listened to the soundtrack, there's great Spotify playlists of it. What they do is there's tons of great late 60s music in here. And what Tarantino did was he took, or maybe he actually created these commercials. I'm not sure how he did it, but there are radio commercials in the soundtrack, and it just puts you right in that vibe. You feel like you're in, a classic 60s car driving through Hollywood in 1969, and it's such a great experience, an immersive experience. So I love this movie, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. I can find no major flaws with this one. Such a fantastic and slightly underrated in Tarantino's catalog as well. Next one up here, actually, I went to the theater. So this was my first theater trip of the month, and I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This actually released back in May, but I wasn't super excited for it when it came out. I'm not as big into Marvel as I used to be, getting kind of, burnt out on the whole superhero stuff, and ready for something new. But Guardians of the Galaxy has always been my favorite thing that Marvel has done, and James Gunn is one of my favorite directors who makes these superhero type films, and he once again did a fantastic job with this. Such a great soundtrack, really good story that had some emotional payoff to it, and I really liked this. So that was a fun trip to the theater. Gave this one a 4 out of 5. Next up, I rewatched Ted for the 20,000th time. I'm a big Family Guy fan, a big Seth MacFarlane fan. I watch pretty much everything he's made. I don't watch Family Guy anymore. I watch reruns occasionally, when I'm, up late at night, can't go to sleep, stuff like that. I watch a lot of YouTube clips, compilations of the best jokes and that kind of thing. I don't watch the new episodes, but I've seen this movie many times. This was the directorial debut for Seth MacFarlane, and he voices, of course, the teddy bear here, and it stars Mark Wahlberg and Mila Kunis as well. Such a fun, classic comedy from the early 2010s, and I love watching comedies in the summertime in particular. I tend to watch a lot of comedies in the summer, and this is one of my favorites to revisit every summer. Next title, speaking of comedies, I watched Smokey and the Bandit for the 20,000th time as well. One of my favorite classic comedies, stars Burt Reynolds and Sally Field, as well as Jackie Gleason as the great Buford T. Justice, the sheriff. Such a fantastic movie, a classic movie. I have this cool 100-year anniversary Universal release, which I think these came out in the early 2010s. Really cool slipcover with this. Such a classic, fun comedy. I used to actually, quick story. So this movie we had on VHS tape growing up. And I grew up in a pretty, poor family, lower middle class. And we only had a handful of VHS tapes, and we never had cable growing up. I didn't get cable till I was like 10 or 11 years old. And so this movie I watched over and over again because it was one of like 10 VHS tapes we had. We had this, we had Dumb and Dumber, which I watched over and over again. So it really reminds me of my youth every time I watch this movie. Next release here, so went back into the Criterion Collection. I checked out Smooth Talk in honor of Treat Williams, who passed away back in June, and I wanted to watch a movie that he was in, of course, so I picked this one up. I'd had this for a while, but I went to this, and this is first time watch. Really liked this movie. I thought it was very solid. It did get a little slow in certain parts, but it has a great performance from Laura Dern, who's one of my favorite actresses, and it has a really great message about women and what they have to deal with when they, start coming of age, and how society expects them to act and stuff like that. So I really like this movie. Fantastic. This is Spine 1068 from 1985. And then next one here is an A24 movie that I hadn't seen before. I'd had the Blu-ray in my collection for a while, but it's one of those backlog titles, and that is Zola. This movie, very interesting. This is based upon a series of tweets from, I think, 2015 or so. This actress here plays Zola, the title role, and she was the person who tweeted, and these tweets are based on, the movie is based on her tweets. So I'm not a huge fan of this one. I liked it. I'd heard a lot of really good things, but I didn't love it. It's kind of a very unique approach to doing a movie, obviously, based on tweets. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Performances were decent. It's got a really interesting performance from Coleman Domingo in the movie, and it just kind of is a story that kind of unravels as the lives of these people begin to unravel a little bit. So, interesting watch. I don't think I'll be revisiting it a lot, but happy I watched it at least the once. Next up, so this is the last bit of physical media that I watched this month. Like I said, huge fan of comedies in the summer, so I dove into this set here. This is the American Pie Presents movies. These are all of the direct-to-DVD, like really shitty American Pie movies that came out in the 2000s. And I was perfect age when these movies came out. So I watched 3 out of the 4 here. Naked Mile, Beta House, and The Book of Love. Now, when The Book of Love came out, I was 13 years old. So like I said, perfect age to watch these movies. This was actually, fun fact, this release in particular was the first DVD or Blu-ray or anything that was either unrated or rated R that I bought for myself when I turned 17. I lived with very religious parents, and so I don't seem like that at all, I don't think, but because I'm not very religious myself. But what I watched was very heavily guarded, so there's no way in hell that this would have ever existed in my house. So whenever I turned 17, I could finally buy stuff for myself. This was the first thing that I picked up. Not the greatest set of movies in the world, but you can understand why I really liked them when I was a teenager, and there's a lot of nostalgia with these movies. They're not good. I think I gave Naked Mile was the best grade. I think I gave that a 2.5 out of 5. Just average or below average for most of these movies. But I always really enjoy revisiting them because of the nostalgia, obviously. Next up here was my second trip to the movie theater of the month, and that was to see Asteroid City, directed by Wes Anderson. Stumbling over my words here. This one I have a full movie review video for, so if you're interested in my in-depth thoughts, definitely go check that video out. But I really liked this. I thought this was a great movie. One of Wes Anderson's best, in my opinion. It's one of my favorites of his, definitely top 5. I'm not sure exactly where I would put it. It's not his best, but it's close to his best. I really loved the message of this movie and how it went about telling its story. Number 14, I watched 15 movies in total. This is the second to last one. My third and final trip to the movie theater, and that was to see No Hard Feelings, which was stars Jennifer Aniston. I'm tired. Jennifer Lawrence, my bad. J-Law. And it's a R-rated comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence, and this was pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. A average comedy released in 2023. There's nothing special about this movie. Jennifer Lawrence is a good actress, and you can tell, like, she gives a pretty good performance, but the movie, to me, like, the story, again, just kind of felt a little icky to me. Like, the premise is this early 30s Uber driver, just Jennifer Lawrence's character, very down on her luck, poor, trying to make it, and this rich family offers her a car if she will date their son, and date is literally put in quotes in the movie, which is an odd premise to start with. And then you meet the character that the guy, 19-year-old guy, he acts like he's 12. And that was really, I get that's what they're going for comedy-wise, but it was just really off-putting to me. And I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy this one that much. I'm all for R-rated comedy, and I'm really happy to see an R-rated comedy, but this was not it. And then last movie that I watched, I saved the best for last. I watched on Amazon Prime, because I couldn't find this movie anywhere else. Lost in Translation from 2003, directed by Sofia Coppola. And I really, really loved this movie. It stars Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson in an early performance from her. And basically you have these two people who are kind of stuck in a hotel in Tokyo, and they meet each other on, just a chance encounter, and they start hanging out over the course of this week. And the movie's kind of, I don't know, vague in terms of their relationship, but there's definitely some romantic tension going on. And I just really, really loved this movie. And there's this sense of, there's a sense of romance, but it's also very melancholic that I really like. And I watched this movie because I'd read an article about how it was similar to Her, which stars Joaquin Phoenix, one of my favorite romance films of all time. And I definitely felt similar vibes here. Obviously, they both have Scarlett Johansson in them, but definitely some similar vibes here. So I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. It's not without its flaws, but it's a really, really great romantic drama from the early 2000s that I really enjoyed a lot. So with that being said, those are the 15 movies that I watched in June of 2023. Pretty solid month for me. I'm looking forward to hopefully more in July. Hopefully a lot of Criterion titles since it is Criterion season. Hoping to dive into my Criterion collection this month. I've already dove into a couple titles, so definitely stay tuned next month for the July recap. Hope you all had an amazing month. I hope you have an amazing weekend here coming up. And we're in the middle of the weekend, so I hope you're having a great one. And I will talk to you later. Bye.